Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Guys, I cannot believe that we are here. I cannot believe it is the end of 2022. This year has just flown by so fast. It feels like quite literally 5 minutes ago I was sitting on this couch in my Houston apartment doing my 2021 wrap up, and now I'm living in Dallas and so much has changed and it has just been the most beautiful freaking year. So much of that thanks to you guys, thanks to everyone that has watched me, supported me, talked to me about books this year. Like, it has just been the most amazing time. And I'm so excited today because we are going to be going through my top 10 reads of 2022. And I just have to say right off the bat, you guys know, being a reader, this list was very difficult to compile. I mean, there were so many good books that I read this year. Some of my absolute favorites of all time. Like the top 5 books out of this list, God tier, obsessed. Those were pretty easy, but the rest, there were so many. There were probably 6 or 7 books fighting for that number 10 spot, especially like fighting to the death. It was very difficult, but I've settled on this list. I am very happy with it and I'm very excited to talk to you guys about every single one of them. So you know I like to ramble. This is gonna be a long one. Let's just get into it. All right, first up, coming in for me at my number 10 spot is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This book just absolutely blew up on TikTok over the last few months, and honestly, it's so deserved. I was so excited whenever I saw this book for the first time because if you guys know me at all, you know I'm a big hockey nerd. I'm very obsessed with hockey, and any type of hockey romance catches my interest. And this one just did not disappoint at all. Basically, it follows this boy named Nathan and this girl named Anastasia that are both athletes at this college together. Nathan is the captain of the hockey team and Anastasia is a figure skater. And basically, one of their 2 ice rinks ends up going down. It cannot be used and they are forced to share a rink together now and share ice time between the hockey team and the figure skating team. And really nobody is excited about this, but Anastasia is particularly upset about it. She's got a big competition coming up. She's trying to go to the Olympics. Like, this is her dream, it's her everything. So having to sacrifice any of her ice time is not something that's ideal. And Anastasia catches Nathan's eye right away when they're in this big meeting learning about this horrible news, and he basically beelines right over to her and is like, hey, I'm so sorry this is happening. He's just a total like golden retriever sunshine boy, and he's like, I'm so sorry this is happening, but it would really just be best if we could all be friends here. Like, we can work it out, everything's gonna be okay. And Anastasia just has absolutely no interest in Nathan. He has zero effect on her initially, of course, and she just has no interest. She's like, who are you? Why are you talking to me? And from there, you know, the two end up crossing paths a lot because they are having to share the ice rink, and because of course how it goes, they just end up crossing paths over and over in different places at parties and whatnot. And Nathan is just making it his mission to make this girl like him, and it was just so good. It was so freaking cute, so spicy. There was a lot of really good talk about mental health in this book that I feel like is really important and really relevant and really relatable to a lot of people. Just all in all, so good. Such a great debut from Hannah Grace. I'm so excited to see this series continue because honestly, in my opinion, it's a better version of Off Campus. I can't wait to see where it goes. Okay, and then next, we are really seeing the diversity in the books that I read and the things that I enjoy right out the gate here, and honestly, I love it because it's just a perfect representation of who I am. My number 9 spot is going to Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Let me tell you guys, I read this book back in September, I think, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I finished it. No matter how hard I try, it's just like living in this little spot in the back of my mind. Certain scenes from it just keep coming back to me and I keep reliving them, and I'm not complaining. That's all I gotta say. Basically, this story is so interesting. It follows this girl named Adeline that is in her mid-20s and she's an author, and basically her grandmother has passed away and left her this really big estate sort of mansion out in the woods. And this estate has been in their family for many generations. Her great grandma lived here. It's a really big piece of history. And even though Adeline is just one tiny little girl living in this massive mansion, and all of her friends, all of her family are telling her that she should sell it, pocket the money. Honestly, this mansion has a lot of dark history behind it. Adeline's great grandmother was actually murdered within this house. Like, there's just a lot to it and a lot of reasons why she shouldn't stay there, but she's not listening to any of those reasons because she wants to live there. She wants to write her books out of it. So that is what she's going to do because she is a stubborn girl. But yeah, after moving in, things very quickly start to go awry. It's very obvious that things are not what they seem at this mansion. There's lots of paranormally things happening, creepy things happening. Adeline ends up coming upon a journal that belonged to her great-grandmother that she looks through and learns that her grandmother actually had a stalker, which is interesting information, knowing that her grandmother was actually murdered. And then at the same time all of this is happening, Adeline is just so lucky because history is repeating itself, and it turns out that Adeline has found a stalker of her own. And let me tell you, this man that has become infatuated with Adeline is, I can't even begin to explain it. This story is so dark and twisted and messed up. You see Adeline's perspective, you see her stalker's perspective, you see the way that he is just like enamored with her and the thoughts that he has, and then her being terrified of what's happening, all of these little hints that are being dropped, this feeling that she's constantly being watched when she learns more about her stalker and eventually comes face to face with him. All of the pieces of this story mixing together just made it the most enthralling book I have read in such a long time. I could not put this down, and it was a fat book. I haven't read the second book in the series yet because I loved this so much, and that is kind of the person that I am. If I love something so much, sometimes I put it off. Like, I want to space it out. I want to spread out the enjoyment, and I'm just holding it. I'm holding it there for a rainy day because this story and these characters and everything about it, so good. I will say it's not for everyone. It's dark, it's twisted, it's toxic, it's messed up, but God, was it good. It's my number 9 spot of the year. Okay, this next book, my number 8 spot, it is a little bit of a wild card. It's not a book that anybody is talking about right now. It is not anything that is popular on TikTok. It was something that I kind of just read on a whim. I went through my Top Gun phase this year. I mean, I've been in a Top Gun phase my entire life. I love Top Gun. When the new movie came out, I was obsessed all over again, obsessed with Miles Teller, as I always have been. And one of my followers, Sophia, messaged me and is like, hey, have you seen The Spectacular Now? I'm like, of course I've seen The Spectacular Now. I love that movie. And she's like, well, have you read the book? Because it is my favorite book of all time. And I said, there's a book? Long story short, I read it, and oh my God, this just became like one of my favorite books of all time. Just looking at it, I want to reread it. It's just one of those books that hits you in a way that you can't even explain. It feels like a cult classic, kind of like a comfort read, just something about it. I literally want to name my son that I don't have, that I'm gonna have with a husband that I don't currently have either, after the main character of this book. Like, that is how committed I am to it. That's how much I loved it. Basically, The Spectacular Now follows this boy named Sutter Keeley. He is just the life of the party. He is one of the most popular guys in school. Everybody loves him. He's the class clown. Everybody just wants to hang out with Sutter. Everybody wants to be his friend. Everybody wants him in their friend circle at their party. But at the end of the day, nobody really takes Sutter seriously, and that's something that he's starting to realize as he's getting older, as he's going into his senior year. All of these girls want to date him, but nobody sees him as someone that they're gonna have, you know, for the long haul, for a long-term relationship. And his most recent relationship has ended for the same reason once again. The girl just doesn't see him as a long-term type of guy. She's like, look, you're fun, but we're growing up and you're just not that serious, and so let's just end it now. Let's just be friends. And this has never gotten to Sutter because he's very much a person that lives in the now, the spectacular now. But with this girl especially, it's hit him. It's hit him a little extra hard, and he doesn't know how he feels about it. And he's kind of going through this crisis of trying to get her back, trying to figure out what he needs to do to get her back, and how he should change, but he doesn't want to change because he's fine with who he is. And when all of this is going on, he ends up basically coming across this girl named Amy Finicky. He actually wakes up on her front lawn after a night of crazy drinking, as Sutter does, and Amy is just the polar opposite of Sutter. She's not popular at all. She's very quiet, keeps to herself, very different, and you know, he has never really given her much thought, but of course she knows exactly who he is. And Amy and him end up kind of forming this friendship between the two of them that really kind of turns into more. The two of them like show each other just different sides of life and sides of the world and ways of thinking. They are just the exact opposite, but also like everything that each other needs. There's just a lot to this story. It's a really short, quick read. I loved it so much. I think the ending is kind of going to be controversial for some people. I think you'll either love it or hate it. I personally loved it. I love this entire book. If you can't tell, I'm just like sitting here gushing about it, but this is going to live on my shelf forever. I am so happy I read it this year. Sophia, if you're watching this, thank you for telling me about it because it's incredible. Okay, now for my number 7 spot. This is a book that I have gushed about on so many occasions this year, and it is so deserved. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read more from these authors. It is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This book, I read it back in January, I want to say, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm still looking at the cover and just loving it. I love the concept. Honestly, it reminds me so much of Beach Read by Emily Henry, but I think it's honestly a much better version, and I know that's a hot take and a crazy thing to say, but I really mean it. It is all the best parts of Beach Read and all the best parts of People We Meet on Vacation, combine them together and just like make it better. That is what this book is. Basically, this story follows this man named Nathan and this woman named Katrina. They are authors, 2 very famous authors that are incredible on their own, but so much better together. They met at this writing retreat many years ago, ended up deciding to combine their talents, combine their powers, and write some books together, and they absolutely took off. These books that they wrote were just the most popular books of the entire year. People love them, adore them, can't get enough of them. They just were magic when they were writing together. But now we know, present day, something happened between Nathan and Katrina that sent them their separate ways. They were the dynamic duo. They published several best-selling books, and now the 2 of them haven't spoken in years since they wrote their last novel together. They've gone their separate ways. They've kind of lived their separate lives for a little while, but now the 2 of them are being forced to reunite because they have 1 book left on their contract from their publisher and they have to finish it. So the 2 of them now are going back to this small beach house in this small beach town that the 2 of them wrote their very first novel in, their very first smash hit novel in, and they are having to, you know, force proximity, be together, write this book together, which is a very like intimate, intense process to write a book on its own, but to write it with someone else, and this other person being someone that you haven't talked to in years, that you obviously have a lot of tension and angst and history with. It was just so good. We're seeing what's happening present day. We are seeing all this angst and tension, and we can tell that something obviously went very wrong between the 2 of them. And then we're also flashing back to the past, seeing them write their first novel together for the first time in this same house, and we're kind of putting all the puzzle pieces together of their relationship and what happened and what sent them their separate ways. And oh my God, I loved it so much. And what I loved even more about it is that this book is actually written by a married couple that writes books together. So, oh my God, it's just like my favorite thing ever whenever authors can write about things that they have experience in. Like, it was just so cool to read about the writing process. Like, I'm just a dork for stuff like that, and I just think Emily and Austin absolutely killed this. This is my first book of theirs that I've read, and I am just so committed. I am reading all of their other books that come out from here on out. I am obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with this book. I will never stop talking about it. It is so underrated, so good, and absolutely deserving my number 7 spot for the year. Okay, next, my number 6 spot. This book is just so different from any of the books we've talked about thus far. It is just one of those books that screws with your head, makes you think, puts you in the shoes of the main character, and forces you to go through this so tough, so impossible situation that you just have no idea what you would do if it was your life and it was really happening to you. It just makes you rethink your entire life, every decision you've ever made, and it is just something that Taylor Jenkins Reid is so good at. It is One True Loves. Oh my God. This book is turning into a movie soon. It's already been filmed, and I will lose my mind the day it comes out because I just love it so much. Basically, this story follows this girl named Emma, and because it is called One True Loves, you might be thinking, what does that mean? There's multiple loves? Yes, indeed there are. Basically, in this story, we see Emma's original love story with this boy named Jesse that she, you know, went to high school with. He was really her first love. Emma is from this very small town where her family owns the bookstore, and she loves her family. She's very proud of the bookstore, but she has just always wanted to do something else, go somewhere else, see the world, travel, and nobody in this small town, nobody in her family really seems to understand her, and she's never really felt seen until she meets Jesse, and he just sets her world on fire, just blows her mind, you know, makes her feel understood. He also wants all the same things she wants, so obviously they fall madly in love and everything is fine and great until Jesse has to go away on a work trip and basically his helicopter crashes, there is an accident, and Jesse is never seen from again, and Emma believes him to be dead, and she is absolutely distraught, as you can expect. She's going through the worst grief imaginable. Time goes on, and even though it is still so tough, over time she is kind of forced to start to move on, and she does eventually do that. It's been 3 years at this point, and she has found herself crossing paths with one of her old friends from high school named Sam, who she never really saw as a romantic interest. He just was always a very sweet boy, a very good friend to her, but now being in the place that she is and being much older and Sam being much older, you know, they see each other differently, and she basically gets to fall in love all over again and kind of find happiness for the first time in a very long time, and, you know, find her second true love. And everything finally seems to be going right in the world until she gets a call at dinner one night from Jesse, and it turns out he did not die. He's been stranded ever since that accident, basically a castaway situation, and has been working every single day to get back to Emma, who is now currently with another man, engaged, about to be married. It is crazy. It is so tough. It is so heart-wrenching. This story is wild, but oh my God, it's so good. It's so, it's just one of those stories about life and like what's important and what you really want and how people, you know, change over time, and the things that they need, the things that they want, and sometimes what you think you want or need is not really what you want or need, and how, you know, you evolve and grow as a person, and what's really important to a functioning relationship, and how someone can be perfect for you but timing just always gets in the way. Like, there's so many amazing life messages to this story, and I will just never stop screaming from the rooftops about it. It was just such an experience, this entire thing. I loved it so much, and the entire time you don't know who she's gonna end up with, what's gonna happen. In the end, I was very happy with what happened. It's what I felt should happen, but still it made the whole thing. It's just so tough, but so beautiful, so good. Seriously, if you haven't read this yet, I absolutely recommend it. All right, y'all, now we're getting serious. We're getting into my top 5, and let me just tell you, these top 5 books are God tier. These are some of my favorite books of all time. If you have not read any of these, I am telling you, in 2023, put them at the top of your list, because you have to. They're incredible. And I just want to go ahead and start off with number 5. Just seeing this book makes my heart explode. Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is another one that really blew up this year, especially over summer, as to be expected. And it's so deserving. So this book is so interesting because it actually takes place over the course of one weekend, but also 6 years. Let me explain. This story follows this girl named Percy. And at the start of the story, present day, we see Percy, you know, she is a grown woman at this point, moving into her 30s, hasn't really had many luck with relationships. She's just kind of working, living her life. And we see Percy get a call from this man named Charlie. And we learn that Charlie's mother has passed away, and Percy seems very upset about this. And he's like, the funeral is this weekend. I totally get it. If you don't want to come, I know it's difficult for you. And she says, no, stop, absolutely, I will be there. And that's kind of all the information we initially get. But from there, we do learn that Percy, growing up, her parents bought this lake house when she was about 12 years old, and they would spend their summers at this lake house. And so we see the very first time that they move in to this lake house, and we see her meet the boys next door. The boys being Charlie and Sam, 2 brothers that live right next door to them. And Percy and Sam just hit it off right off the bat. Like, they are the best of friends. They get along so well. They have this really deep connection. It is just all butterflies and rainbows. I mean, at the time they meet, they're just kids, but still it is that like young love, adorable, just mushy gushy, so cute. Of course, they do just start off as friends, but over the course of this book, we do get to see this story over 6 summers. We do get to see Percy go back to this lake house every summer, see Sam. We get to see their friendship sort of bloom and blossom, and over time, very slowly, you know, them mature, their relationship mature, and then them become something more. But now we learn, obviously present day, that Percy and Sam have not talked in years, that, you know, they've gone their separate ways, they've lost connection, but now Percy is coming back in town for Sam and Charlie's mom's funeral, who she was very close with because, you know, she lived next door to them growing up. So Percy and Sam are reuniting, and there's a whole lot of tension and angst. You guys might be able to tell from some of these books, like that is just one of my favorite tropes, like friends to strangers to lovers, when connection has been lost and we are seeing present day, this angst, this tension, lots of just like, you know, things between them that clearly are not right, and we are also flashing to the past and putting, you know, the pieces together, figuring out what went wrong. This is very much one of those stories, and oh my God, I loved it so much. It was so beautiful, so cute. Sam and Percy's relationship, everything about this story, like I wouldn't change a single thing about it. I loved it so much, and in my opinion, it is a way better version of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Like, to me, this just blew Love in Other Words out of the water. They're super similar in their concept, but this one is just so incredible. I totally want to reread it next summer. I already know it. It is never ever leaving my bookshelf. Carly Fortune, this was her debut novel, by the way, which is just mind-boggling to me. She has another book coming out next year, and it will be in my cart so fast. I cannot wait to read it. Just so freaking good. Okay, next, number 4. Things are really starting to heat up here. Number 4, we have All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. If you guys have been watching my channel for this year, like, you just know I never shut up about this book. I never stop recommending it, and it is for a good reason. This book is so good. Mariana Zapata is just one of those authors where if you love her, you love her. She has this very particular style. All of her stories are such slow burns. Her books are so long, and you get to see all the little nitty-gritty details of these people's everyday life, all the little things they go through. Like, it's just such a unique style of writing that is so her, and if you love it, you love it. And if you don't, you don't. But for me, I adore it, and this book was just incredible. I think about it all the time. The man in this book, Tobias Rhodes, is the ultimate book husband. Like, you cannot tell me that there is a better man out there. I know we have our book boyfriends, like our mafia gang lords and, you know, stalkers from Haunting Adeline, where we're like, ooh, book boyfriend, love them. But Tobias Rhodes is like that realistic book husband. Like, he's who we should actually be going after and who we actually need, because oh my God, he's incredible. Basically, this story follows this girl named Aurora. Aurora's life has just totally been turned upside down. She's about 30 years old, maybe mid-30s, and she is just going through it. Her entire, like, the rug of her life has just been ripped out from underneath her, and she is in a place where she needs to just start over. And Aurora is from this really small town in the mountains of Colorado. She grew up there with her mother, and her mother actually passed away whenever she was a teenager. And her mother was very into hiking. It was her biggest passion. She had all these journals that she would keep where she would document her hikes, and she would rate them and just leave notes about what she liked about them. And so Aurora decides that she's going to go back to her small town. She's going to take her mother's journals with her, and she's basically going to go on all of these hikes and sort of like reconnect with her mom, re-find herself, whatever. Like, she is just living her life. And all of that sounds good, but things are not so great whenever she gets there and realizes that the Airbnb that she has rented out to stay there was not supposed to be rented out. It was rented out by this teenage boy without his father's knowledge, and she is staying in the guest house on their land. The father has not approved it, and he is not okay with it. This father, of course, is Tobias Rhodes, and Aurora is devastated. This was her only plan. This is pretty much the only rental in this entire little town. This is the place she has to stay. She has no other options. She's packed up her entire car, moved here. She is desperate. And Tobias Rhodes, in his grumpy, handsome state, is not really having it, but eventually Aurora, being the absolute sweetheart she is, convinces him to let her stay, and he agrees as long as he basically never has to see her face, and she comes and goes and doesn't talk to him, doesn't talk to his son, and they live their own lives. And Aurora is totally fine with that. Of course, that'll work out just fine, as it always does. Oh my goodness, this was the most incredible book It was such a slow burn. We've got the forced proximity because they're obviously staying together like on this same land. You got the single dad trope, which normally is not something I seek out. I'm not really about the single parent trope, but this was so different because the son was a teenager and it was just so cute. The found family of it all, again, just Tobias Rhodes. He is the definition of if he wanted to, he would. Like, this book just warms my heart. I honestly want to reread it so badly so I can annotate it. It was everything. And it's so perfect for winter. So I highly recommend, if you haven't read this yet, read it and read it soon. Okay guys, we are getting into my top 3 and I'm just letting you know right now, this is about to go off the rails. Like, I will not be held responsible for the rants and rambles and raves I am about to go on about these books because they hold my entire heart and soul. They are so different from each other, and honestly, it's like on any given day I feel like they could be interchangeable because they're so different, like depending on my mood and what I need at the time. But they're just all so beautiful, so amazing. And if you read anything from this video, read these 3 books because my God, they're everything to me. First up at number 3 is Him by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. Oh my God. Elle Kennedy is obviously the author of the Off-Campus series, the author of the Briar U series, and those are cute, those are fun. I love a hockey romance, but this book, it is actually a duet. This is the second book. We have Him and we have Us. These are so freaking God tier in an entirely different stratosphere. These unleashed something in me. I have never loved a book couple more than I love this couple. Like, there is nothing that compares. They are my entire heart and soul, and I think I'm going to reread this 100 times over and I would never get tired of it. It just is the best thing in the entire world. Basically, this is an MM romance. It follows this boy named Wes and this other boy named Jamie. And Wes and Jamie grew up together going to this really elite hockey camp together in Lake Placid, New York. They would see each other every summer. They were each other's roommates. They would spend the entire day playing hockey together and all the evenings hanging out with one another. They were the best of friends. They would keep in touch throughout the year, send each other, you know, little gifts back and forth. Like, they were just absolute best friends. And now, present day, we know that Wes and Jamie haven't spoken in years. Something happened basically one night at camp. They had, you know, a little too much to drink and things got a little bit weird, and the two of them have not spoken in years. One of them totally cut the other one off, and you know, life has kind of gone on. They've each gone to play hockey in college, and now they are both graduating seniors, both heading towards the NHL, and the two of them are reuniting for the first time because they are going to be coaching together at this hockey camp. And oh my God, you guys, this is another one of those stories where present day, there's tension, there's angst, there's, you know, history between the two of them, but we don't know it, but we get to learn it because we get flashbacks. We get to see the two of them in the past. We get to see that night that the two of them ended up going their separate ways. And oh my God, this is just the greatest freaking duet. One of the guys in the story is openly gay. The other one is very much not. And the things that these two boys go through, the absolute beautiful friendship, relationship, found family, everything that comes out of this just makes my heart explode into a million pieces. But also, it is so freaking spicy, so good. Seriously, some of the best of everything that I've ever read. And if you're a hockey fan, this is one of those sports romances that like genuinely has hockey in it. Not a ton, so if that scares you, don't let it scare you, but I'm a big hockey nerd. I love hockey, and this had the perfect mix of actually showing hockey and actually having people play hockey, but then being very character focused, character driven. Just the entire story is perfection. Like, I cannot imagine it being any better if it tried. It is just so good, so beautiful. I love the two of these boys so much, and I will simply never get over them, ever. So go check out Wes and Jamie. They're my whole heart. All right, next guys, number 2. This book, and honestly, this entire series is just something that I have gushed about an obnoxious amount of times recently on this channel, but you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna continue to gush about it. It's my entire personality. As of recently, it has just set my soul on fire. Like, that is the only way I know how to explain this series and what it does to me. Like, I don't feel like I'm the same person that I was before I read it, and I don't think I'll ever be the same again. That is the level of obsession I have with it. I'm so in love. I'm so in love. I've never read anything like it. It is the Magnolia Parks universe. Listen, Jessa Hastings is a freaking artist, and this series is her masterpiece. I am so obsessed with this woman. I'm so obsessed with the way she writes, the words she uses, the way she describes things in a way that I have never heard in my entire life. This series is just so beautiful. It is so messy and toxic and dramatic. It is basically Gossip Girl set in high society London. That's the easy way I like to describe it. It follows the high society in London. All of these characters are in their mid-20s to early 30s. They are like the richest people in the world. They are socialites. You know, you kind of got half of the society that is very rich because their parents are just like business moguls or celebrities of some sort. And then the other half of this sort of friendship group are people that come from dirty money. They kind of are like gang lords, drug lords. They're involved in like luxury art theft. Like there's just so much to it, this friend group and all the characters in this story. It's just so big, so immersive, so much going on, but every bit of it is just incredible. Like I have never wanted to insert myself into a book, into a world more than I have with this series. Like I feel like I am personally friends with every single person in it. I feel like I know them. I feel like the way that the story is written, it's like the characters are talking to you. So if you haven't heard of this series, it's kind of hard to just give you like a basic rundown, but basically the way the series works is it alternates between Magnolia Parks, this character, and then this other character named Daisy Hates, and then it goes back to Magnolia Parks, and then the fourth book just came out and it's back to Daisy Hates. So like I said, how there's kind of like two parts of this society, Magnolia Parks is very much from that socialite society. Her father is a famous music producer and she's just got like all the money in the world. She really has zero responsibilities, just lives her life, goes to brunch, you know, is very into fashion, blah, blah, blah. Where Daisy Hates comes from the most notorious crime family in Europe. Her family is really known for stealing art, lots of crazy stuff going on. It's very mafia-esque, but the two of them live in the same world. Like they have the same friend group. So this story takes place, you know, from Magnolia's perspective and from this perspective of this boy named BJ that she grew up with. All of these friends went to the same very bougie Gossip Girl-esque boarding school together, and Magnolia and BJ have just been soulmates from the very beginning, yet they insist on being with everybody but each other. It is so back and forth, so toxic, so dramatic, but just absolutely everything. Literally, they are so horrible to each other, yet these two are the most intense soulmates I've like ever read in my life, and I'm just so obsessed with it. So that's what's kind of going on in this story, and then you get this same story, same timeline, but now from Daisy Hates' perspective, and it's so good. You're just like putting puzzle pieces together the entire time you read this book, and the world just gets bigger and bigger. The friendship group gets bigger. I've never wanted to, I say this over and over every time I talk about the series, but it's the best way to explain it. I've never wanted to hug yet slap so many characters at the exact same time. I adore all of them, but I also hate all of them. They're all idiots, but they're also my favorite people in the world. Like it is just so good. I don't know how this is the first thing Jessa Hastings has ever written, because it's insane. I would pay any amount of money to crawl inside her brain and just live there for a while, because I don't know how she came up with this. It feels so real. It feels so real. When I close the book and I realize that it's not, it like instantly puts me into depression. Like I'm getting a tattoo for this book. I already know I'm doing it. I should probably wait because there's gonna be 7 books in the series, but the first 3 alone that I have read, I'm so obsessed. It actually makes me nauseous how much I love it. So I don't know if any of this was coherent or made sense, but long story short, it's probably not for everybody, but oh my God, it's for me. It is so for me, and I hope it's for you too. Go check out Magnolia Parks. You'll be mind blown. All right, guys, I had to go get a ring light because, as I tend to do when I film videos, I talked until it was literally dark outside, but now we are here to talk about my #1 book. And honestly, I just want to say, not to be dramatic, but this book kind of changed my life. You know how every once in a while you read a book, you see a movie, whatever it is, and you just feel in some way or another like it was created specifically for you. Like, something about it just hits a little too close to home. You just relate a little too much. There's just too many details that are so accurately pinpointed towards you and who you are as a person. And you know, you see a character maybe go through something or feel a certain way or have these thoughts or feelings that you have always had but you've never been able to express or put into words. That is what this book was for me, and it quite literally sent me into a mental breakdown. Not to discourage you from reading it, because it was the best possible mental breakdown. It just like gave me a revelation, and I feel like I've been a different person since I read it. I don't want to be dramatic, but it really just opened my eyes and just screwed with my brain, squeezed my heart, and I adore it. I adore it with my entire heart and soul. It is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid, I just have to say, is maybe the most incredible author there is. She has so many books, and I have read just about every single one. I think I have 2 books of hers left to read, and not a single one has disappointed me. I don't know how she does it. Every single time, every story she comes up with is just so good. She has this way of putting you in these just like crazy situations where, you know, you're forced to like be in the main character's shoes, go through what they're going through in one way or another. She always opens your eyes, forces you to think about things and question your entire life, your entire being. Just everything about what she does is just so amazing. She's so talented. I would give anything to just like sit down and have a conversation with her, because I don't know how she does it. She is one of my absolute biggest inspirations as an author. If I could one day do anything, write anything that makes anybody feel the way any of her books have made me feel, I will have known that I made it, because she's amazing. But anyways, this book, let's talk about it. I never even know where to start with this book, because there's just so much to it, and every bit of it is just so good and so important. Basically, this story opens up with us meeting Carrie Soto, and we quickly learn that Carrie Soto is basically the greatest tennis player that has ever lived. She has broken every single record possible. She has the most Grand Slams of anybody. She is just an absolute legend. Everybody knows her name. Everybody knows about her. Everyone has seen her matches. Like, she is just a rock star. But now, present day, she is 37 years old, and she has been retired for a few years. In some way or another, she has sort of moved on from the tennis world. But when this story opens up, we see Carrie at a tennis match with her father, who has also been her coach her entire life, sitting there watching this girl named Nikki Chan about to tie her record for the most Grand Slams. And her and her father are talking back and forth. Her dad says, okay, Carrie, you know, what are you gonna do if she ties your record? What is gonna happen? And Carrie says, it doesn't matter, because she's not gonna tie it. Why are we talking about this? And he says, okay, but what if she does? And she says, Dad, she's not going to. It doesn't matter. Well, as to be expected, Nikki does win the match. She does tie Carrie's record. So now Carrie is no longer the greatest tennis player that has ever lived, at least by herself, because Nikki has tied her record. And we very quickly learn the type of person that Carrie is, because she's just not gonna let that slide. She, at the age of 37, decides that she's going to come out of retirement. Her father is going to coach her once again. She's going to train, and she's going to compete this year so that she can win her record back. And after we learn all of this, we end up jumping back to Carrie's very early childhood. We see how her father, you know, was a tennis player himself growing up. He was very good, but he had injuries. It just wasn't in the cards for him to go on and be an amazing professional player. He very much was great in his own right. He was very well known, but it just wasn't gonna be, he wasn't gonna be that superstar. So he made it his mission in life that Carrie was going to be that superstar. Literally from the time that she could walk, she had a tennis racket in her hands. He ingrained it in her from a very young age that she was going to be the greatest ever. And so we see Carrie as a child spending every free minute of every day at the tennis courts with her dad. She has put her entire heart and soul and life into this sport. It is her entire being, her entire existence, her entire purpose. We see her go on to, you know, play in the juniors, be amazing, go on to play professionally, and then, you know, win all of these titles and become the best. And we see, while Carrie is doing that, how she has had to sacrifice so many things. And it doesn't even feel like a sacrifice to her, because tennis really is her everything. But, you know, she has never made it a priority in her life to have any friends, much less relationships, because, you know, tennis has all of her focus. It's her every thought, it's her every breath, it's her purpose. Truly, it is her purpose in life. And because of that, even though Carrie is amazing and, you know, so well known and so famous. She's really famous just as much as she is for being a good tennis player as she is for being a total raging bitch. Like the media, the paparazzi, everybody just knows her as, you know, this stone cold bitch that just cares about tennis and nothing else. And Carrie is honestly okay with that reputation because she knows that it's true, but it doesn't matter to her because people can talk all they want, but at the end of the day, she's won winning matches. She is the best, and that's all that matters to her. And so we do see Carrie's kind of entire career play out and then ultimately, you know, dwindle down. We see her retire. There's so much to that, so much that happens. It's so good, so good, so crazy. You can tell Taylor Jenkins Reid put so much research into this book, learning so much about tennis and everything that goes into it and the sport, and it was just so good. I'm a sports nerd, not a tennis nerd at all. I really don't know anything about tennis, but I loved it. I loved seeing her entire journey, and then now, present day, coming back and seeing her as a 37-year-old woman trying to train and compete against these young, like, girls in their early 20s that are the new rock stars, and how, you know, she's not as young as she used to be, and even though she's still a fighter, her body has aged, and just having to battle with that. And then really more than anything, Carrie having to battle with what she has in life if she doesn't have tennis, because she's never not had tennis, and her having to kind of accept that, you know, she's gonna do everything she can to get this record, but what if she doesn't? What does that mean for her? What does that mean if she's not the best anymore? Like, what does she have? And kind of coming to terms with the fact that she's nearly a 40-year-old woman, but she's never really had like a stable long-term relationship because she's never allowed herself, because it never felt important. But, you know, now the thing that has always felt important to her is something that seems out of reach in a way. It's just, there's so much to it, and there's so much about Carrie that I hold so close to my heart. I really know how it feels to just feel like you're supposed to like be something special, do something special, be the best, to just be so fixated on your goals and achieving them, and, you know, letting yourself just like get so laser focused that everything else kind of blurs out, and then time goes by and you're like, what am I doing? Like, I just related to Carrie so much and felt like I understood her, and I just wanted to give her the biggest hug. And seeing her journey and what she went through and all the realization she had of, oh my God, like all these other people here also, like tennis is everything to them as well. It's not just, you know, why am I better than anyone else? And, you know, maybe I should have tried to befriend these people rather than just competing against them all these years, because like here I am and I'm alone, and is this what I really want, and have I had my focus on what's most important? Like, I could ramble on for hours about why I love this book so much, but like we would be here the rest of the night. Long story short, it was fucking incredible, and it deserves the F-bomb because it was the greatest. It was the greatest. I love this book with my entire heart and soul. But yeah, guys, it is quite literally dark outside. Why do I do this to myself? I don't know, but it was so worth it because we did it. We talked about my top 10 books of 2022. If you read any of these books, I'd love to hear all your thoughts about them down below. If you have any other books that you read this year that just blew your mind, that you absolutely feel like I need to read, leave them in the comments. I will add them to my list. I have so many books I'm so excited to read this coming year. It's gonna be so fun. I have my next novel coming out over this next year that I'm so excited to talk to you guys some more about, to share with you. It's gonna be so fun. It's gonna be so great. Thank you so much to everybody that read my debut novel this year, When Fate Breaks. I've already seen a couple of people tag me in posts saying that it was in their top reads of 2022, and I have been like a blubbering mess. It's just so crazy. It's never gonna feel real. That was just my biggest goal in the entire world for essentially my entire life, and the fact that it happened this year, I published a book and I'm already halfway to publishing another one now, is just insane. And I couldn't do it without you guys. Like every ounce of support you give me, it means everything. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world, and I love you guys so much. I'm so excited to talk to you more about more books next year. Never gonna stop. Just thank you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.